Hey guys, Civil Lord here, back again with another action figure review of the long-awaited Savage Crucible Kickstarter exclusive Imperial Sentry. This, of course, is brought to us by the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios, who, spoiler alert, are going to remain fine folks for the entirety of this review, because long story short, this figure's bussin'. Review's over, have a nice day, see you later. I'm just kidding, of course. Please stick around. There's a lot to discuss here because, for those of you who weren't paying attention, not only was this a Kickstarter exclusive figure, but the Savage Crucible line as a whole was a Kickstarter funded endeavor from the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios, who are new-ish to the action figure scene. If I'm not mistaken, they used to be My Action Figure Customs and sold a lot of custom, third-party, whatever you want to call it, Mythic Legions parts, 3D printed parts, a lot of which go for a chunk of change nowadays. But the gentleman in charge of that whole thing, I believe his name is William Robert Post, decided, you know what, I'm going to create my own figure line and see how it goes. And it went extremely well. They made a lot of money during their Kickstarter, so props to them. But on top of making a lot of money for their Kickstarter, they made, if you ask me, a very quality, I'm going to repeat that, quality product in a relatively short amount of time. Take into consideration that when Four Horsemen did the Mythic Legions Kickstarter, it took a while for those figures to actually get into customers' hands. This was a little over a year. I think this campaign was last year during January, February-ish, and we're in May of the following year, 2024, for those of you watching this in the future. The campaign was, of course, in 2023, and we already got the first wave of figures in hand. Now, of course, I'm a total doofus. I only bought this guy from the first wave, which was all like reptilian, reptile, lizard people, whatnot. I'm sure Richard Jones from the Euro Legions podcast will be over the moon with these figures, as I am, because I like me some lizard men, as does he. And I gotta tell you, when I heard that these were shipping, I was a little bit skeptical. And then I watched Toy Bro's review of the Lumerian Royal Guard. Again, a figure I did not buy because I'm a doofus. And I was relieved, to say the very least, that these guys are built the way they are. And to keep a long story short, they're built very similar to NECA figures, but without the quality and or QC issues that NECA figures can sometimes have. I didn't have to heat anything up on this guy. He was ready to rock out the box, and I love that. When I open a figure, the last thing I want to do is mess with it to get it where I'm happy with it. I'm happy with this guy, I would say 90-95% fresh out of the box. There are a couple things to discuss, and I'm hoping that the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios take note of these things and improve them. But for the most part, I have to give this guy 2 thumbs up. And spoiler alert, yeah, definitely a contender for one of the figures of the year. So, with all that being said, why don't we cut right to the chase and get into the meat and taters of this review and take a look-see at all the Imperial Sentry has to offer in terms of accessories, starting off with a pair of clawed hands. Very nice sculpt on these. They have the in and out hinge there, very tight, but once you plug them into the arms, they will move just fine. But that's all you get for extra hands. I wish it came with a pair of fists. A lot of people have been saying that. I myself included, so, you know, I'm sure there will be a hands pack at some point that will omit that problem, at least for the first wave of figures. Maybe they'll implement it for the second and third waves, but for now, I think some fist hands would be nice. That said, he does have some weaponry, like these two curved, I want to call them daggers or short swords. They're very scimitar looking, but these go on the sheaths and or scabbards on his hips there, and they're very easy to pull in and out of those because they are slit down the side, the sheaths and or scabbards. And then we also get two of these. Be honest with you, they are very reminiscent of the big old Buster Sword that the Batman v Spawn 2-pack Spawn from McFarlane Toys has. The way they're kind of cleaver shaped there. But very cool looking swords. This guy, I do like them a lot. That said, since this guy is a Sentry, you know, my mind's eye view of a Sentry, some kind of guard, maybe an elite guard, I would have liked a spear or a shield of some kind, you know? But that's just me. That said, there was a little bit of a bonus in the box that we didn't know about initially, but Harbinger Studios was nice enough to include for free. And this doesn't do a whole lot for me because I'm not into this whole thing, but if you are, I'm sure you're elated about this. And that is some role-playing cards. You get two of them. I don't know if these are random with each figure. I'm doing this in case I was holding them upside down before. But you get two of these character cards there. There's the back. I don't know if there's anything on there, but you know, visually impaired toy reviewer here. I can't really see what I'm doing sometimes, and unfortunately, stuff like that is one of them. But you know, if you're into role-playing games like D&D and stuff like that, I'm sure you're over the moon about that. That said, again, I would have rather have gotten some fist hands or a spear over something I'm not going to use and probably just put into storage. So, with all that being said, though, why don't we bring our friendly neighborhood lizard man up close so we can appreciate all the nice paintwork on this guy. Super crisp and clean. Lots of paint throughout this whole thing. They definitely did not skimp out here. He looks amazing. He looks like a real freaking lizard dude. It's incredible the amount of paint they put on this guy. That said, I've heard from Anthony's Customs that the inside of the mouth, at least on that Royal Guard, was a little lacking. I'm not sure if it is here, because I don't have that figure, but you know, it looks good closed, but they're not going to paint the mouth, then why have a hinged jaw, right? So maybe the hinged jaw was an afterthought, and they put that in later, but I really like the way this guy came out. I think aesthetically, he's dang near perfect. Dang near perfect. So, as far as articulation goes, and this is kind of where I had a problem with the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figures, I've been pretty vocal, at least in direct messages and on my Instagram at Overlord Productions, for those of you not following me already, that I'm not a big fan of the Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figures, how they're constructed, particularly in the torso. The ab crunch just wears out after minimal use, and that's just no good at any price point. So, you know, when everyone was kissing their butt at the end of 2023, last year, I was a little concerned, like, what's going through people's heads, you know? That said, Harbinger Studios, gotta give them props. They constructed their figures very well. It's similar, but not the same, and we're gonna look at that now. So as far as the head goes, you do get a little bit of up and down. It is a double ball pig. He can look down a little bit, can look up a little bit. You get some tilt, very natural tilt, as well as a swivel. I don't think they have neck joints. I thought they did, but I guess they don't. Again, the jaw hinges, and you get a pretty wide spread on that thing. So that is pretty cool. Shoulders go out to the side, about almost 90 degrees there. He does have a butterfly joint, and it works pretty well. You can get pretty decent forward out of that. And I didn't really worry about these being stuck and or breaking when I attempted to get them to move. Let's check this side. Yeah, they work pretty well. They're nice and tight. I don't know how they constructed this butterfly joint per se. I want to say there is a ABS palm hard plastic, for those of you not in the know, pin going up through there, and that's why it's so solid, because I want to say that the torso is molded out of PVC and not the same stuff as that. So that is a very pleasant surprise. The shoulders can, of course, rotate. And the shoulder pad, for those of you wondering, are connected on the inside of the shoulder socket. So they do rotate with the arm. You can rotate the pauldron independently from the arm, and that is very, very nice. That said, he does have a bicep swivel, but it's more of a floating cap piece. This is not exactly something NECA does, but it's something Hasbro has done in the past, mostly with single-jointed elbows. I think McFarlane's done this as well, where you get this kind of floating bicep cap, and your elbow hinge down here is actually where you get your bicep swivel, and it goes up and plugs into the shoulder there. So you can rotate the arm at the elbow and then rotate the bicep cap and get a natural, pose for the arm. I'm okay with that. It's a little overly complex if you ask me, but if the shoe fits, wear it, I guess. It works fine. I just feel like maybe there is a cheaper way to do that, but, they went all out. What can I say? That said, he does have a double elbow that works pretty well, despite the fact he's got this bulky armor. And I will say, the plus side of this kind of NECA-style double elbow joint is you do get a gauntlet twist, which is something that a lot of figures don't have. So that is nice. That said, he does have rotation in the wrist with the appropriate hinge for holding weapons, which, thank goodness for that. I mean, some people want the other hinge as well. I'm okay with just having this, because when you hold a weapon, that's how you hold a weapon, dude. So I'm very happy with that. I'll put the arms out here. Let's take a look-see at this torso articulation. Diaphragm joint, just like the head, it's a double ball peg. Check this out. No ab crunch, all the way back. Now you're probably wondering, well, if it's like McFarlane, this is no good. Joke's on you, sucka. Look at that. Complete crunch forward with a double ball peg. No ab crunch necessary. Again, that's pretty bussin'. I love that. It's butter smooth, and it's not loose, but it's not too tight either. It doesn't feel like I'm going to break anything. Amazing. Flawless execution on their part. That said, you do get rotation, both in the waist and in the diaphragm there. You do get amazing tilt. Look at that. He can almost touch his freaking knee with the wrist. That's crazy. Same with that. Look at that. Incredible range. Absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. The things you can accomplish with double ball pegs is astounding to me. And I've been in the action figure review game for quite some time, so this has to be the best torso construction I've ever seen for an action figure line, period. Hands down, no contest, this is the best. The butterfly joints are functional, but aesthetically not too jarring. The diaphragm joint is fully functional, and while it does have a little gappage on the back there, you're going to have that. It works so incredibly well, you can almost omit that, right? That said, as far as the hips go, you can kick them out to the side. The floaty belt, I think I can push this up a little bit. Alright, kick it out a little more. So without the belt there, you can get a full spread on the legs. Kicking it back down. Does not appear to have a drop-down hip, but it doesn't need it. It gets perfect splits. You do get a pretty solid kick forward, too. And it looks like you got your thigh cut right up in the hip there. It does not feel like it is a Oh, it is. It does have, I think it does have a separate thigh swivel. So it is just like a NECA kind of ball socket hip there. So that's fine. You do get some rotation down at the knee as well. And the lower leg. I guess a boot cut, if you will. Double jointed knees. Again, pretty solid there. Again, not the tightest things ever, but not the loosest either. So I'm okay with that. Then for the feet, we do have ball hinge ankles that are not too gummy, I will say. They do have a little resistance to them, but I'd rather they be tight than loose. He does have a pretty solid ankle rocker, despite the fact he has a ball hinge. And then the hinges in the feet are a little bit loose. This one's not too bad. This one on mine was a little loose. I had to flip the joint around. I don't really care if it looks a little funky. I think it's fine. I don't think the ankle is too asymmetrical from front to back, so I'm okay with leaving mine this way. And then they also have toe joints, which this side is not too loose. This side, they're not too loose. They're not like floppy, but they could be tighter. I think some detented toe joints would definitely help, but you can get a decent amount of bend out of them. They can bend down a little bit. They can bend up. But I think, considering the anatomy of his feet here, they are a little bit too far back. But again, that's just kind of the anatomy of the lizard guys. They're going to have long toes compared to humans. That said, he does have peg holes in the bottom of his feet, but unfortunately, the hockey puck display stand we're used to seeing with all McFarlane Toys releases does not fit this guy at all. It's too loose. So maybe in the future, offer up some figure stands or just include a figure stand. Doesn't have to be anything complicated, like a round or square stand with a couple pegs on it is more than enough, I think. But before we wrap this up, we got to talk about his tail, because this is kind of reminiscent of the NECA Toys Spyro to me. He's got double ball pegs throughout the tail. He's got like a couple at the base, a couple right here, and a couple right here, and a couple right here. So I think it's segmented enough. Maybe a couple more would look a little more natural, but for the most part, it looks pretty natural. It's not too bad. So, yeah, man. Very, very nice first release for this company. I think they did a heck of a job compared to some first releases. I think it's a little too soon to say that they're giving Mythic Legions a run for their money, but if you're the type of collector that likes a lot of articulation, you're going to love these. You're absolutely 100% going to love these. I think these were made for people like that. I think that was kind of the intention, to have a more articulated fantasy line. I personally, not an articulation guy, but when I have a lot of it and it's done this well, I'm very pleased. Very, very pleased. That said, a little birdie who is going to remain nameless for the sake of privacy reasons informed me of a little bit of a, I don't know if you want to call it a rivalry or a bit of beef between the Mythic Legions and Savage Crucible community that resulted in one party intentionally breaking figures from the other party. I mean, last I checked, we're all adults here, so can we please start acting like them and just enjoy this stuff for what it is? Because if you ask me, there is enough room on this earth, in this action figure collecting community, for two really kick-butt fantasy figure lines. Alright? You know, we're all about having yucks and good times here, but when you gotta buckle down and be serious, you gotta do what you gotta do, man. So, with that being said, all that aside, I'm very happy with this figure. I'm glad I got one. I wish I got more. That's on me. Hopefully I can get more in the near to distant future, but only time will tell, I guess. So, with that being said, it is time now that we move right along and take a look at some size comparisons, and you guys are in for a treat because I went all out for the size comparisons for this review because it is a new figure line. So hold on just a sec and we'll get started with all of that. First up, here is the Imperial Sentry alongside a couple of Hasbro Marvel Legends figures, Ghost Rider and Blade. Moving them out of the way. Next up, here he is, alongside a couple of McFarlane DC Multiverse figures. The Nightfall Batman, the best Batman from McFarlane Toys, if you ask me, and the Hush Black and Gray Batman for something a little bit bigger from McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse line. And for those of you wondering, those fist hands are from the Two-Face as Batman figure, because he is the only other Batman figure that I know of that utilizes the same base body as this black and gray Hush one that has a pair of matching fist hands. Kind of sad when you think about it that way. Moving them out of here. Bring in a couple of Masterverse figures, the new Eternia Triclops and the new Eternia Trapjaw, which, if you ask me, if the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios were to make Snake Men tributes utilizing parts from these lizard characters they've designed and or created, I would be 100% down for that. Those would look, as a friend of mine would say, pretty bussin'. So I'm getting these two out of here. And for those of you classics purists, we have the Super 7 Ultimates Lion-O. Of course, utilizing the Masters of the Universe Classics base body. And Panthro from their Thundercats Ultimates line. So don't say I didn't go all out for size comparisons for this review, at least. Instead, getting these two out of here. This review would not be complete without bringing in our two regulars, the Mythic Legions Brother Mandibulus. I'm sure that Mythic Legions is the main comparison all you guys are wondering about. And I gotta tell you, these Savage Crucible figures got some size to them compared to Legions. That's okay. Not everything has to be the same height, you know? A little differentiation never hurt anybody. That said, we also have the infamous 11 Spawn, who is a little taller than our friendly neighborhood lizard man there. Speaking of which, since I had some Marvel Legends out earlier, I would not mind seeing a custom lizard from Spider-Man utilizing some of these parts either. Just need some bare arms and legs. This guy's got a lot of armor going on, so anyone see anything like that? Hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. Would love to see it, maybe with soft goods. So with that being said, the time has come to finally wrap this review up, put it down in the record books, and discuss final thoughts. Overall, and I'm sure that the question most, if not all of you out there in YouTube land are wondering, did the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios deliver on a quote-unquote quality product after a relatively short amount of wait time. Remember, this was a Kickstarter, and most Kickstarters take a couple of years to get produced and shipped out to the consumers. Savage Crucible only took a little over a year, which is kind of incredible when you consider how well done this figure is. So my answer, short answer to that question is yes. I think they more than delivered on a quote-unquote quality product after a relatively short amount of waiting time. However, like most things in life, this is not a perfect figure yet. I think there are some changes that could be made on Harbinger Studios' behalf to better the quality of their figures moving forward. For example, I think the joints in the feet, particularly the toe hinges and ankle hinges, could be a little tighter, and maybe some things could be a little tighter all around, but particularly in the feet, because it is a bit of a balancing act to get this guy to stand in a, we'll say, battle-ready pose. I think in a neutral pose it'll be a lot easier because you're not trying to balance him as much and whatnot. I also think there could be more accessories in the box. For the price point, I think a pair of fist hands and maybe a more unique weapon to each character isn't asking for a whole heck of a lot. As I mentioned earlier, this guy, the Imperial Sentry here, and the, I think it's Lumerian Royal Guard, would have benefited from having some sort of spear-esque weapon, because I think it would complement them very well. And since we're on the topic of stability with this line, how about a figure stand? 2 pegs, simple, doesn't have to be overly complicated, but would be very much appreciated, at least by folks such as myself, who don't want to waste time trying to get their figures to, quote-unquote, stand the heck up. That said, there is no doubt in my mind that this guy is definitely going to be eligible to be one of my top action figures of the calendar year 2024, those of you watching this in the future, because in all my years of collecting, other than a line like Mythic Legions, when I first got into them, that is, I don't think I've been more impressed with a figure line that is brand new to the world of collecting. This is a very welcomed and pleasant surprise, not only to me, but to others, and I am very, very thankful that the fine folks over at Harbinger Studios worked as hard as they did on this line, because if they keep this up, even at this quality, for the price point, I think it's more than enough. But it doesn't hurt to strive for better. We always got to strive for better, folks. And that is, at the end of the day, the moral of this story. So, round of applause for Harbinger Studios for an incredible first go at a figure line. This is an amazing output from a new company, and really, really good first impressions from these guys. So I'm hoping that my Wave 3, which is the underwater faction characters, creatures, and critters, and whatnots, are as good as this guy, if not better, because if that is the case, the future for this company is looking quite bright indeed. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and until next time, I'll catch you guys later.